TC, the number today, 71,731. 71,731.
And that was at the start of the day. I'm thinking it might be ticked up.
71,732. Because we have just broken and then some the 70,000 mark for daily subscribers to the Smerconish newsletter. And maybe it's because of this headline review that more and more people are flocking to it and watching the headlines on YouTube.
Oh, wait, are we calling it the headline review? Is that the new thing now?
No, God, no. I didn't mean to say that.
Because
we don't know what we're calling it. You know what? Can I tell you, I did give it a lot of thought over the weekend.
Okay.
We run through the headlines from Smerconish.com. I don't want to get too kitschy.
Okay.
Let's just call it that. TC, here are the headlines from Smerconish.com and the newsletter.
I think it's great.
We roll with it.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
71,000. I think of things in terms of stadiums. Like 71,000 is Veterans Stadium in my youth for watching an Eagles sold-out home game. Could you quickly look up Lincoln Financial Field, which is where the Eagles play today, and tell me, are we like bigger than U.S. Steel? Are we bigger than Lincoln Financial Field? Because we're bigger than the Tower Theater. We're bigger than the Spectrum or the Wachovia Center.
I have breaking news.
Tell me.
Lincoln Financial Field capacity.
Yeah.
67,594.
All right. We're bigger than Lincoln Financial Field. Now here's the other thing, though. Because the stadiums of my youth, there was the Tower Theater, and it still exists. 2,000 or 3,000 for a concert. Think Bowie Live. That was the Tower. Then was the Spectrum. Now it's the Wachovia Center in a new building. That's 20,000 for hockey or basketball. Then you've got Veterans Stadium, now Lincoln Financial Field, which is 65 to 70,000. We're beyond that. The next milestone, and then we're done.
What is it?
I promise you,
No.
if we ever hit it, I'll stop obsessing about this. But JFK, where I saw Leonard Skinner and Peter Frampton on the same bill, where I saw the Rolling Stones, that was 100,000 people. 100. So we are headed for JFK, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
And I couldn't be happier.
And you think that, by the way, just to be clear, the capacity there is 102,000. I just need to be very direct with you here. So that's what we're going for. And I'm just telling you that there is no part of me, not one single ounce of me, that thinks you'll be happy once we hit 100. Because after we hit 100, then all of a sudden, respectability begins at 125 and on we go. Yes, I know you.
I commit to you. I commit to you on the 14th of March in the year of our Lord 2022 that if we hit 100,000, I'll shut up.
I don't believe you. I do not. There's no part of me.
Guess what? Try me.
Okay, fine.
Try me. Let's get to 100,000 and then see where we are.
Can we now touch base on your Instagram, please?
Which one?
The Instagram from this morning where you had a mystery place.
Which one?
What? There's like several mystery places that you're stopping on your mystery Washington, D.C. tour?
Oh, that one.
Yes.
So this morning, I am, as you know, and I've been saying all morning, I am at the SiriusXM World Headquarters in Washington, D.C., one of the most sophisticated, technologically advanced buildings in the world, where I am nonetheless relying on my cell phone's internet service. But I guess that's not what you're referring to.
That really wasn't what I was referring to. But go ahead, let it out, Michael. It's healthy for you.
On the way to work today, I was driving past the White House and St. John's Church across from Lafayette Square. I will never again look at St. John's Church in the way that I have before the age of Trump because, well, you saw, I stopped. I was being driven by Uber, and I asked the driver to pull over, and he had no idea. Well, he still has no idea.
Wait, Michael,
why.
Did you want to pull over for a photo op? I'm just asking.
Well, I said, could you please pull over right there next to St. John's Church? Because there is the, TC, you would probably know this. What do you call the sort of menu board in front of a church where they list the times of Mass or the liturgy, whatever it might be?
I never think of that as a specific thing, just the sign. I don't think there's in my mind, there's not. Maybe there is. I know exactly what you're talking about.
You do remember when President Trump marched across Lafayette Square with General Milley and Attorney General Barr in tow and reached for a Bible and held it up outside St. John's, and then bedlam ensued. That's where I was, right at that spot.
I didn't know where you were until you panned around and then you saw the door. And then I was like, oh, my God, of course, that's exactly where he is. I was a little suspicious, but then with the pan around, then I found out. Yeah, and I actually looked it up because I couldn't remember exactly what date,
When was it? Tell me.
June 1st, 2020.
June 1st, 2020.
George Floyd had been killed May 25th, and there were all kinds of protests going on, and there was a peaceful protest in Lafayette Square that day, but the night before there had been a fire at the church. So there
and that corridor opposite the White House, I guess it's 16th Street in between the Hay Adams Hotel and St. John's Church, is now been renamed Black Lives Matter, and the street has been painted. It's kind of funny because when you drive down 16th Street, or as I have done, if you're riding a scooter down 16th Street, you can't tell what it says. You have to be like high above and looking down to recognize what it says. But yeah, how could I not mark that location?
First, I thought you were solving some big problem, as you do when you go around to different parts of the country and you solve mysteries, crimes, things like that.
Service warrior.
Right.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yesterday at Smerconish.com, 9,129 votes. As I call it, let there be light. Survey question, should the federal government make daylight saving time the year-round standard? Of the 9,000 and change who voted, it was decisive. It was 80-20. More specifically, it was 80.87% to 19.13%. I linked at Smerconish.com and in the newsletter today to an essay that I found very interesting on exactly this subject from Senators Markey and Rubio. So an R and a D agreeing that it is time to end daylight saving singular time. Quote, we can't always get bipartisan agreement in Congress these days, but here's one thing we can agree on. We could all use a bit more sunshine, and that's why we're working together in the U.S. Senate to make sure that we end the practice of springing forward and falling back by making daylight saving time permanent. The effects of darker afternoons, I believe this. I absolutely believe what I'm about to read to you from the essay. The effects of darker afternoons on our mental and physical health can be serious. The biannual transition of springing forward and falling backward disrupts our circadian sleeping patterns. It causes confusion, sleep disturbances, etc., etc. The rate of heart attacks spikes by 24% in the days following spring forward in March, according to a 2024 study from the University of Michigan. So be careful. I'm all for doing whatever prolongs the light. I mean, those days in December and January that are the doldrums of winter where it's so damn dark so early, I'd like to put an end to. So I'm all for Rubio and Markey. Give us light, and that's what the audience said as well. I'm not surprised by the 80-20 result.
Well, it was nice. It was nice last night to have, be looking outside at 6:30, 6:45. I was like, oh, and tonight, still light. Amazing.
Yeah, and tonight.
Yeah.
And tonight. And I know the arguments, the crops in the field, the kids at the school bus stop, et cetera, et cetera. Give us light. Do whatever it takes. If I were in Alaska, I would drink even more than I already drink.
You got to use the lights. They do light therapy so that you don't feel depressed. Seriously.
Well, I know it's not just light. I think that weather has, on me personally, a significant impact on my attitude and outlook.
No question.
If I wake up and it's windy and I know my hair is going to be askew, it devastates me.
It affects you.
So it impacts me. It absolutely impacts me.
It's good that you can admit these things.
I heard from, everybody in my orbit is doing TC's job, including my brother-in-law, Don, who is a retired New York lieutenant, New York Police Department lieutenant. He was in Giuliani's protective detail back in the day. So he reached out for me by email or text this morning and said, like, what about the guy who paid $518,000 for the football? And I, of course, know exactly what he's talking about now. Sunday morning story,
Crazy.
As in yesterday in the morning, headline, retired quarterback Tom Brady's final touchdown ball goes for $518,000. Dateline Tampa, the ball from the last career touchdown pass quarterback Tom Brady threw as a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has sold for $518,000, according to the auction site Leland's. And then it reminds us, with 3:20 to go in the fourth quarter of the NFC divisional playoff game against the Rams, Brady heaved a 55-yard touchdown pass to wide receiver Mike Evans, cutting the Rams' lead to 27-20, yada, yada, yada. Presumably the final touchdown ball of his distinguished career. That's the Sunday morning headline. Sunday afternoon headline, you can read this at Smerconish.com. Brady to return to the Bucs for the 2022 season, saying he's got some unfinished business. Here is the tweet. Quote, these past 2 months, I have realized my place is still on the field and not in the stands. That time will come, but it's not now. I love my teammates. I love my supportive family. They make it all possible. I'm coming back for my 23rd season in Tampa. Unfinished business. LFG. What's LFG, TC?
Let's effing go.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah. Hey, Joe Biden. Yeah. Go get him.
Yeah.
Go get him.
Let's effing go. That's what that is.
Or Dave McCormick running for the U.S. Senate. Let's go. In the sports realm, I also have posted today Jamel Hill writing an essay for The Atlantic about Brittany Griner. Others have made the point, but, the point to be made to sort of bring together Ukraine and these seemingly non-Ukrainian headlines. Griner's decision to play basketball in a country that suppresses personal freedoms is a matter of simple economics, argues Jamel Hill. Many WNBA stars work in other countries during the WNBA's offseason because doing so is more lucrative than playing in the U.S. Griner is reportedly earning more than $1 million to play for her Russian team. Her base salary in the WNBA, by comparison, $221,450. So the argument being, if she were getting paid more here, she wouldn't have to go over to Russia to play hoops at this time of year. TC, did you see? I know you read about it. It's linked at Smerconish.com. Did you actually watch or hear what happened with Naomi Osaka over the weekend?
I did.
When some loser shouted out?
I mean, it both broke my heart, and I also I kind of wanted to just wrap her up. It was awful. It was just terrible.
She's playing at Indian Wells, a head-to-head competition against a Russian, by the way, and some loser shouts out, "Naomi, you suck." And, of course, totally breaking the decorum of tennis, and it rattled her. And immediately after it happened, she wanted the opportunity to address the crowd, opportunity denied. When she lost, she did have the opportunity to speak to the crowd and said, I just wanted to thank you. I've been heckled before. It really didn't bother me, but it's like heckled here. And then she talked about Serena and Venus having been heckled in the same location. The part of the story that I don't know that I'd like to know is, what was the reaction among tennis fans to the person who actually did the heckling?
I don't know what happened to them in the actual stands, but you can hear when they yell, everyone's cheering for her at the,
right.
Trying to silence that, trying to make up for that. So, I mean, no one thinks that's a good idea. It's a terrible thing.
But it's okay. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing, and my heart breaks for her as well. It does make me concerned about going forward if people who are antagonistic to her. I mean,
now I know how to get her.
Right. And TC, we have information, stories posted today about gambling and sports. So I was kind of putting it all together, and I'm just thinking about someone who's got money on the line and then acts in a way or causes others to act in a way that they think will rattle her. It's troublesome, and I don't have the solution.
It's a bigger story than this. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
We don't talk much recently about the pandemic, but it's still with us. We're still living amidst COVID. If you need proof of that, how about former President Barack Obama testing positive for COVID-19? He tweeted this out on Sunday, says that he's feeling fine other than having a scratchy throat. The country's death toll now stands at 965,000 lives lost, so nearly 1 million Americans. How many cases? 79.4 million confirmed cases, according to the CDC. Perhaps even more interesting of a headline, and I have to say, not a surprise to me. It's not the Obama headline. It is a new survey from Axios and Ipsos polling. Headline, CNN and MSNBC viewers got COVID much less than people who watch Fox News. A whopping 17-point differential. Viewers of CNN and MSNBC less likely to say they've contracted COVID than people who mainly rely on Fox and conservative media for information. It's no secret that views about the coronavirus pandemic and related matters have been influenced by partisanship almost since the very beginning. 84% of respondents whose main source of news are CNN and MSNBC said they'd been vaccinated. 27 points higher than respondents who use sources of news other than cable news. Bottom line is, if more people contracted COVID in accord with where they get their news, then obviously more people died. I mean, all of the politics surrounding the disease and the information sources and the different ways in which they handled it caused people to get COVID and die. That's the takeaway from that survey. You can read it at Smerconish.com. Ketamine. TC, you know anything about ketamine? Did you know anything about ketamine before this story?
I did not, but I asked my young source, that would be my daughter, and
she knew all about it.
Absolutely knows all about it. She says there are raves in New York City that they go and not she doesn't, but that people go and take this, and it's like a recreational drug. Very scary. She says it's very strong. It's very scary. It's it really does mess with you. And she said it's what people take as it's a horse tranquilizer. That's how she described it.
Okay, so I'm not talking about it in a how do I want to say this? I'm not talking about it in a social setting.
Right, I know, but that's the thing. Yeah.
The story today at Smerconish.com talks about ketamine being administered intravenously as a treatment for mental health disorders, albeit one not yet approved by the FDA. They are allowed to do this. You could go to Nushama, which occupies the entire 21st floor of a building in Midtown Manhattan. It looks like 3,000 silk pastel flowers hung from the ceiling, a flat-screen TV in the waiting room playing a landscape of wonder, NFT featuring lily pads and garlands and leaves that upon closer inspection, tiny nymphs with wallpaper to match.
Well, there you go.
All inspired, apparently, by Michael Pollan's best-selling book, How to Change Your Mind. The originator of this location says that he had an epiphany moment, an open-hearted experience at the beginning of the pandemic where he realized I can bring medicine to people and give them relief for some of the mental health disorders from which they are suffering. Here are the facts. The FDA doesn't authorize ketamine for mental health treatment, though it allows the drug to be used as a sedative, making it possible to get a prescription in New York. It has authorized a version of ketamine called esketamine, I think, administered as a nasal spray. So people are going in and having, here's the bottom line, they're having psychedelic experiences in Midtown Manhattan, in addition to other locations. Some say it's dangerous. Others say it's a wave of the future. Speaking of danger, how about the 5 West Point cadets who overdosed on fentanyl during spring break. Suspect now in custody, 4 of them hospitalized. Apparently, I know like nothing about this, but I think it was cocaine that had been fentanyl laced to give it even more of an enhanced, what do I even want to say?
It is more of an enhanced high. And the scary thing about fentanyl, so fentanyl is oftentimes cut into cocaine because it's cheaper, it's quicker, and in small dosages, it can make a better high. But the problem is it's really tricky to get the right amount, and in the wrong amount can be fatal. So much so, Michael, that 2 of those guys that overdosed, the West Point cadets, as they were overdosing, they were getting help. 2 men that did not take the cocaine were giving the mouth to mouth. They went into a cardiac arrest just from the contact. That's like, that to me blew my mind.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because when I read that part of the story, I thought, in the next instance, maybe someone is going to be hesitant.
Wouldn't you be?
To administer life-saving support.
I know. Yeah, that really was incredible. And the other thing that they said is that if you're not, I mean, this is terrible, but like if you're not used to fentanyl, you can build up. But if you're not used to it, it can be very, very dangerous. And I'm just wondering if these guys were like, hey, well, let's try it, and had not been, didn't know what they were dealing with, obviously.
Yeah, call me naive, but I was disappointed to see West Point cadets caught up in this. It really bums me out. And finally, in terms of bumming us out, William Hurt is gone. Only 71 years old. I know, Variety is the coverage that we link to at Smerconish.com and in today's newsletter. I know that for many, they think of Kiss of the Spider Woman. He won an Oscar for that mid-1980s movie. I will forever think of Body Heat. Love Body Heat. I will think of The Big Chill. He was part of that ensemble cast. And of course, and maybe it's because of what I do for a living, William Hurt in broadcast news. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, and it's reason to go back and check it out all over again. I was reminded in the Variety coverage of him having once told the New York Times, quote, "It's not right that my privacy is invaded to the extent that it is. I'm a very private man, and I have the right to be. I never said that because I was an actor, you can have my privacy, you can steal my soul. You can't," said William Hurt, gone at the age of 71 of so-called natural causes. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are your non-Ukraine, non-page 1 headlines of the day. Of course, the coverage at Smerconish.com and in the newsletter has a full complement of the war coverage, which I discussed earlier in the program, and the other news of the day, because life does go on. Please join the 71,731 who have subscribed, it's free, to the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. TC, I shall see you back in Philadelphia tomorrow.